Alrighty folks, I was spending a little bit of time today just going through some of the auxiliary systems on the car and some of the solutions that I'm employing for this particular build. Now, on this car, as on the vast majority of modern passenger cars, it's equipped with power steering, and the system employed on the E39 is hydraulically operated. Now, what that basically amounts to is a pump that is belt driven from the engine pulley that circulates hydraulic fluid through essentially a valve that is attached to the steering column. There's our steering column in there. There's the valve block. And that valve block decides then, depending on which way that I turn the steering wheel, whether fluid is provided under pressure to this port or this port. And if we trace those pipes back across, we find that they basically operate a hydraulic ram inside the steering rack that provides assistance to steering the car. Now, obviously, when we take the combustion engine out, we need a source of hydraulic fluid to replace that which had been provided by the engine driven pump. Now, the most common solution is to use a electric power steering pump, and there are some cars that have been made over the years that employ these, and the pump that you can see there in front of you is a 12-volt power steering pump. It is a Mark II version as fitted to the Toyota MR2. Now, this particular pump would be operated from 12 volts DC, and it's got two pipe connections on it. The first is the pressure port here, and this is where the high pressure fluid comes from the pump to the valve on the steering rack. And then we have here, which I hope we can see, a bit of loom wire out of the way, is this inlet pipe here where the fluid comes into the pump from the reservoir. Now, the feed to the pump and the return holes from the steering column valve pose no real technical challenge because the fluid is at low pressure in these pipes, so standard nylon braided tubing with Jubilee clips is more than satisfactory. Now, the problem arises with the pressure port on the pump, because how do we couple that fitting to the inlet on the valve on the E39? Now, this port here is a M16 by 1.5 metric thread, and what we see hopefully here is a hydraulic fitting. This is a standard adapter fitting, and it is on the side that I have closest to the camera. M16 by 1.5, and on the other end is standard 3/8 BSP hydraulic. Now this will simply thread into that pressure port, but it's not that simple, unfortunately. Now if I take it back out, you can probably see that down inside the port is a kind of a seat down the bottom, and that seat is a kind of a male conical affair going on in there, and it's designed to mate with a suitably flared end on a custom made power steering hose that would go into that fitting here and then go into the valve on the MR2, and that hose has to be capable of withstanding a fair bit of pressure. I believe this pump, from what I can see, can go up to about 1000 psi. So no kind of a thing with Jubilee clips and so forth will suffice for that kind of pressure. It's got to be a wire braided hydraulic hose. So on the E36 I was actually quite fortunate, because the fitting was the same thread as went on to the belt driven pump, and I positioned the pump in such a way that it was in roughly the same place as the engine driven pump, but unfortunately I had a male flare on the end, and so what I had to do was to basically build up in there with some copper washers in such a way that I could then screw in the fitting and tighten it down and crush them to provide a seal, and that has actually operated perfectly for the last couple of years without any problems. Now the E39 unfortunately had a rather crazy system for the power steering. The pressure pipe has, I'll show it you in a couple of minutes, all kinds of kicks in it, and it's a big long kind of a affair with some steel in the middle of it. They must have been very concerned about overheating the power steering fluid in this car, because there was that kind of a radiator effect on the high pressure hose, and then the return line actually had a part of it that went through a coil that was clipped inside the radiator for extra cooling effects. So obviously we're not going to have that problem here, because we don't have a great big fossil burning combustion engine pumping out heat, well, pumping out 4 times more heat than it does rotation. So we're not going to have any kind of overheating problems on the power steering fluid. So what I've decided to try on this occasion is to take my fitting and basically a good wrap of PTFE thread sealing tape on it, and I've also got a fairly thin copper washer in here. Now what I'm hoping is that, although that's an uneven surface here around the top, that I will be able to get a seal on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how I get on. I've got a socket here, it's a 22 6-sided socket that I think will be a good fit on the thing, and I'm just going to with a long bar here just kind of tighten it in until we see just what we get. Now, I've also gone ahead and taken the brackets off this morning and They've been cold galvanized and painted black so that they'll disappear. Also giving the pump a coat of paint as well, just to freshen it up. So now I am hoping, obviously, is that A, this will seal, but that B, that this pump can provide enough both pressure and flow to the steering rack to enable it to operate properly. Now, I'm starting to pinch my copper washer here, which is very good. Starting to tighten up. I don't want to get too carried away in case I shear that fitting off, but and copper washer is well in there, and a bit of luck and a prevailing wind, as we say, that won't leak. So I guess we'll find out, and I wouldn't be surprised if I have to do a revisit on the thing. So okay, that's our. This now allows us to use a standard 3/8 BSP hydraulic hose. So I actually have the hose on here, so I'm going to take the thing off, and we'll come back and I'll show you the hose that I had made, and we'll go ahead and put it on camera and just go through some of the other fittings that are required. Now, this is the original high pressure power steering hose from the E39. You can see on this end there's a kind of special flare to fit into the pump, and we have some flexible section here, and we have more steel section, more flexible section, and importantly on this end we have the fitting that goes to the valve on the steering rack, and that is an M14 banjo. That's the important aspect of that. And we have a standard M14 banjo bolt that goes through that center and lets us screw in and basically set up our pipe in whatever way that's required. Now, what I did was went ahead and got a local supplier of hydraulic hoses to make this hose for me. It's a 3/8 hose. On this end here we have a right angled 3/8 BSP, and on this end the M14 banjo, which takes our bolt perfectly happily, and this is 900 mil long and is rated up to I think crazy pressure, just 4,800 psi, so it'll be more than adequate for what we require. So I think this cost me €20 from a local supplier, so it makes the job of installing the power steering system a little bit easier when it's a standard hose like that. So we'll go ahead and I'll get set up here, and we'll see if we can just see if we can set up in there to install the hose. Yeah. So on our valve in here, on the steering rack, we've got two ports. The top port is the pressure port, which is M14 banjo, and the bottom one is the return line port, which is M16. Both are 1.5 thread pitch. So see if I can set up here in some fashion. I'm actually standing in the engine bay at the minute because it's so big. So I'm going to get the banjo bolt on there with the little copper washer under it, and we'll see if I can orientate that in such a way that you can actually see what I'm doing. Not that it's massively exciting, I suppose, but I suppose any port in a storm. So banjo bolt up there, and I'm going to get in here to see my head for a bit anyway. So looping the hose under the motor, and I'm going to put it onto the banjo end on the now what I'm doing here is I'm putting the banjo bolt with the steel washer through, and I've got a copper washer then to fit. I'm going to put under that, so that will hopefully seal our banjo in there, so we don't get any of the leakages or anyone playing what was that banjo tune from Deliverance. Don't want to be hearing that, especially if I run out of electricity somewhere. Now, a bit of a wrestling match, and kind of a big, ugly, not very double jointed guy like me, it tends to create some problems, like when you, on camera of course, drop the damn copper washer out of the thing and it decides to go somewhere else. So let's see where it's gone on me now. I think I'm just going to get another one. Probably have about 10 of them on the ground by the time I get finished here, so bear with me. Right, take two. Right. Couldn't have gone smoothly the first time, I suppose, could it? Yeah. It can be handy to be able to get down in here, in with the damn thing. Even though there's a 13-inch motor in here, I'm still able to. Yeah, that's just wanting to fall off again. Damn it. Okay, take three. Let's see, I think my hose is slightly incorrectly orientated for me here. Of course, the funny thing is, when I did this off camera, the thing just walked straight onto it as if it was made in the factory, but I guess this is live TV. Now, there we go. I think we're starting to bite, or is it just fooling me again? I think we don't get fooled again. Unless my hand happens to be in the way. There we go. Yeah, but oops. So I suppose at least this might serve as a video of how not to put hydraulic power steering on a converted E39. Must be an easier way to drive electric cars. None that I've ever found, so if someone can find that out, then please let me know. Please tell me that's going in. not just spinning, making me look like a fool. That's exactly what it's doing, isn't it? Yeah. And there goes the other copper wash. Yeah. This is not doing good. This is not doing well. This is not doing well at all. This is making me look like a moron. As if I need any help in that department. God, I can't believe this. This thing just went straight on the first time. And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll show the folks at home how to do this. No, it just will not friggin' go on there. Right, that's it. Got it. Jeez Louise. Finally. Okay. We need a 19 spanner then to just to tighten that up. Fortunately, I haven't melted down this one yet. Do have some more spanner melting plans in the near future though, so just in case you thought it was safe to unlock that toolbox. Well, be afraid. Be very afraid. Now, might be able to get that by hand if I give it a bit of a wiggle. Yeah. This goddamn traction motor in the way. Well, at least we're learning something. Had conflicting reports as to whether I should have copper washer underneath this banjo bolt. Two of the hydraulic places I was in got completely different opinions on it. So I'm going to put it in there, and if it doesn't leak, well, I'm going to say you need a copper washer. And if it does leak, well, I'm going to say you don't. And that's my take on it. Alright, that's just kind of nipped up there now. So, next part of the plan, we want to come along here on our pump side, take our 3/8 BSP fitting and just brutalize that into the location that we require. And theoretically, I mean theoretically, bet you have the wrong size of spanner for that now. Great. Now, theoretically then, that is the pressure side of our power steering system done. So I'm going to tighten up the banjo because I don't have the right spanner for that one. And that's the banjo tightened. Banjo looks happy. Going to tighten up this and we'll see about getting in the low pressure stuff. And I'll run through that. And bore you to death something more. And we'll put some fluid in it and see if we can get some leaks. So far, so good. Alrighty folks, you can probably hear our power steering is powered up. So I found a handy location to mount the reservoir here just on the body of the car. Managed to pick up one bolt hole there. Have to do another little bit of a bracket over here just to pick up that one, but that's no stress. This is the original BMW reservoir, and we just a nice little bit of a nylon 12mm hose from the supply port on the reservoir down into the supply port on the pump, and we got our high pressure hose in as we described earlier. And I was very fortunate and that I was able to reorientate the original return hose to come down here around the front. That's that kind of a yellowy steel pipe here. Goes into a hose all the way up here. If you can see it there through the jumbo, goes back into the reservoir. I've just rigged up a quick battery, and we have power steering. So I'm just going to put the camera here just beside one of the front wheels. I'll just give the steering wheel a bit of a rotate. Still getting air out of the system, but I can just move the wheel with one finger here, and we're on a dry steering situation. That's full lock. Full lock. Here's the blow-off valve preventing pressure. And if we come back into our engine compartment, motor compartment I should say, here around our fitting, no leaks thankfully. And around our banjo, hopefully again, no leaks, but time will tell. So, it's just a round out on the power steering system, folks. Wasn't expecting to get it operational today, but there you have it. So in a dry steering situation, which is the worst possible application, we have very effective power steering thanks to the MR2 pump and a couple of hydraulic pipes. So there we go. That's it. Very happy with that. So next installment we'll be looking at the brake pump system and probably finishing off that bracketry there on the reservoir. So there's our fluid in there. Put our cap back on. Our genuine BMW cap. So yeah, that's it. So we'll be back soon when we got some more bits to show. Sorry about the boring bit with all the pipes earlier, but thought it was good to know because no matter how high and loaded I searched, I wasn't able to find anything about the treads on the pump and on the steering rack and all that, so it might help somebody out in the future. Okay folks, stay cool.